Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on If You Leave Me Now as performed by the band Chicago and as arranged by Rick Fiesta. First, the usual stuff. The full lesson is split up into several parts and only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access you can check out my website or my Patreon page. Both offer different perks at different pricing points, so there should be something for everyone. If you want the tab and notation file, then do head over to the website, look up the song and click on the music notes icon. That way you'll get a 20% discount. No account or login is necessary to do this. Now this song probably doesn't need an introduction for most people. It's an absolute classic and the intro alone is enough to make anyone pay attention. The arrangement was expertly put together by Rick Fiesta and the only thing I had to do was smooth out a few chord changes to make them a little bit more efficient. If you're not familiar with Rick's work, then do check out his arrangement of Eternal Flame, as it's become a favorite song for many people on the lesson platform. The main challenge here in this song is the strumming motion that keeps going through the whole song. There is almost always a strum on beats 2 and 4 in this song. Combining this with the melody and bass part can be tricky in the beginning, but it's a technique that is very common in modern fingerstyle guitar, so having it under your belt will never hurt. If you want to try a more basic version of this technique first, then I suggest you check out my lesson on Je te veux by Marcel Dadi. That song is built on the same technical foundation. Ready? Off you go. Okay, so let's get things started then. The guitar is in standard tuning and all I'm using is a capo at the 2nd fret. This is just to match the original key. It's perfectly possible to play the whole song without a capo as well, just in open position, but this is what Rick preferred, so I'm sticking to his original. And that is all. Let's dive straight into the intro, only 4 bars. This is how it sounds. All know what song that is instantly. We start with a very simple A chord, but we're switching around the fingering slightly. So this for a lot of people would be the standard A chord. And what we're doing is what Tommy Emmanuel often does, is we switch around the fingers, the middle finger and the index finger from string to string. So the middle finger jumps over to the D string, 2nd fret, and the index finger drops down on the G string, 2nd fret. This makes it easier to move over to the 2nd chord, which is an A major 9th voicing. You're going to get rid of the ring finger and you're going to drop down the index finger to the 1st fret. A to A major 9th and back to A. That's basically the only move in the intro. If that moving around feels tricky, you can also just go for this middle finger, index finger, middle finger, 2nd fret, index finger, 1st fret, D string and G string, and then just drop down the ring finger and the pinky and get the exact same result. So you start with the bass note together on the 1st beat, 1, 2, and on the 2nd beat you drop down to the A major 9th voicing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that is where the part actually lands. So it's always just those 2 chords. Then there are 2 options. You can just play a low E string and then play the same part again. It there, only those 2 chords, and then move into the verse. Now in the original there's a high-pitched string section that comes in, and it's this note, just a harmonic on the 12th fret. You can try adding that in. And then as you play that harmonic on the 12th fret, you should try and have it ring out as you play that next section. And try not to mute that harmonic while doing that. It's just a little bit extra. I have also looked into the possibility of playing that last chord here, so you can sort of stretch up to that 12th fret. This is something that I'm still playing around with. You'll see the final result in the cover video, but if that's big jump or that stretch to the 12th fret feels too difficult, then just go for the open A string. That would be the full intro. So that was the full intro. Now let's have a look at the verse. This is going to be a bit trickier, but everyone knows this and everyone will start paying attention as soon as you start playing it. This is what it sounds like. Let's consider that already the second section of the verse. Once you can play these 8 bars, you can play well over half of the song. We start with the same chord, A major 9th, then moving into A major again, and then we're going to move into F sharp minor 7. We're going to play a full bar across all 6 strings on the 2nd fret with only the ring finger on the 4th fret on the A string. Then up to C sharp minor 7, we're going to use sort of a voicing that moves around, but you're going to end up mostly with this. A small bar with the index finger across 2 strings, 4th fret on the E string and A string, and then the ring finger and pinky 6th fret on the D string and G string, and then on top 2 open strings, open B string, open E string. This is C sharp minor 7 with G sharp in the bass. We'll use that in the strumming pattern. Then back to F sharp minor, now with the pinky on top on the 5th fret. So the exact same chord shape as before, but with the pinky on the high E string 5th fret. We stick to that same bar, the ring finger drops down, and the pinky will jump up, so you get 2nd fret, 4th fret on the D string now, 2nd fret G string, 5th fret on the B string, and 2nd fret on the high E string. And this is B dominant 7 sus4. So from F sharp to B dominant sus4, and then to an E chord. And that is everything you need to play the whole verse. Now, for the strumming pattern, I borrowed a technique off of another song, which I also did a tutorial on, which is Je te veux by Marcel Dadi. So I'm going to go over that strumming pattern quite quickly now. If it is giving you trouble, then please do check out that first part of the lesson. It's also free on YouTube. You can check it out anyway. And that is the technique we're going to use throughout the whole song. What happens is we pluck with the thumb the open A string, then index finger, 1st fret on the G string, and then open B string, starting on the A major 9th chord. Then the thumb picks the 2nd fret on the D string, and then we strum down with the fingernails, index finger and middle finger, mostly in my case, but that strum is quite soft. The only thing we're trying to get is a sort of click out of the strings, and we're not going to try to produce any volume. This strumming motion is going to remain in place throughout almost the entire song. So 1 and 2, and on the 2nd beat you move back up to the A chord and you strum down with the index finger and middle finger fingernails down, and you try to catch the G string and B string, both 2nd fret now, moving up to the A chord. You strum down, and from that position, as you move the fingernails down, you try to pick back up and pick the same 2 strings. That is what we're going for. This might take a bit of time in the beginning, but this is a very relaxed technique. It should not feel forceful at all. Very loose and very relaxed. You can even sort of help along by putting the pinky on the top E string and muting that top E string, so you have a bit more wiggle room to strum down. After you pick those 2 strings, low E string, just open, back to the thumb to the 2nd fret, and another strum down. that is what happens. That's the first bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that last strum, you're letting go of the fingers, and this is just a muted strum going down, because now we're going to quickly move over to the F sharp minor chord. If you have the tab, you're going to see that second fret all the way at the end of this bar is something that you're already holding down in the A chord, but it works way better if you switch over to the F sharp minor chord before picking that last melody note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That is what you're going for. Second fret on the bar, and then as you pick the bass note on the low E string, you drop down the pinky on the 4th fret on the G string and you pick that together. That is the first note of the next bar. Now we're going to just play hammer-ons and pull-offs with the pinky while keeping that strumming pattern going. So the hammer-on and pull-off is taking care of the melody basically. 1, 2, 3. That is where we pick again. So pull off to the 2nd fret, hammer on, pull off to the 2nd fret, and then re-pick the low E string and pinky 4th fret on the G string. Now with the strum in between there. Bass note, melody note, strum down, just across the chord, another pull off, you re-pick, thumb to the D string, and another strum down across the chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more bass note before we move over to the C sharp minor chord. Those 2 bars back to back. Remember, the strumming part should feel loose and relaxed. Don't go hammering down on that strum. It should be really gentle. Ring finger sticks to the exact same place, 4th fret on the A string, and we're going to get rid of the bar and then play that 4th fret together with an open B string. Now this move, this is actually one of the only places where you're going to play a few variations, how you move into that C chord. Maybe I'll show them right away. Then you can basically play the whole verse all the way through. So either you do what we just did, strum, bass note, and then A string and B string together, or you play an extra melody note, another 2nd fret on the G string before moving over to the C chord. That would be the first variation, and then the last variation is playing the open B string in front of the beat, and that is actually the easiest one to start out with. So same pull off, strum, open B string, and then the 4th fret bass note. And that is, I think, the easiest way to switch into the C sharp minor chord. So those are the 3 variations or the 3 possibilities you're going to play throughout the entire song. Either the strum with an extra bass note, that would be number 1. Then an extra melody note all the way at the end of that bar, but still plucking the A string and B string together, or the open B string in front of the beat. And I think that is the easiest one to switch over. So you already know all 3 variations. You can pick and choose throughout the entire song now. Now on the C sharp minor chord, you start with that A string, B string at the same time, bass note on the D string, and then you add the pinky to the 4th fret on the G string, and you slide up to the 6th fret. And the tricky part is you pluck that slide up with one of those strums down. Re-pick the same note, 6th fret on the G string, and then you add that strange looking C sharp minor chord around that. So the pinky slides up to the 6th fret on the G string, and then you drop in the ring finger and the small bar with the index finger. Just always the same thing, bass note, arpeggiated note and 2 strums down, up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all the way at the end, you drop down the bar across all 6 strings and add the middle finger on the 5th fret on the B string for basically a standard C sharp minor chord, but we need that melody on top to move into the F sharp minor chord. This is the trickiest part, moving around that C sharp minor chord. After this, it's back to more or less holding down one chord shape. So that whole section, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the same trick as before, that 5th fret all the way at the end of that bar, you're not going to just switch over with the middle finger, you're going to grab that with the pinky so you can drop down the next chord shape already. One more time, last 2 bars. And that is where you end up. The first 4 bars all the way through. Melody note in front of the beat, bass note, and then an arpeggiated note. G string, I quite often even play a double stop, G string and B string at the same time. 1, 2, and as you strum down on the high E string, you slide down to the 4th fret. 2nd fret, holding down with the bar, and you're switching over to the B dominant sus4 chord. 1, 2, 3. And now a tricky and really quick move. Melody note rings out, bass note, 5th fret B string, and now as you strum down, the pinky quickly drops down to the 4th fret on the B string. So that's what you should get. 3, 4, to the 4th fret on top, and a low E string ready to round out this first section. So the F sharp to B dominant section, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Easy, the melody note rings out, open E string, open B string, a strum, mostly just muted notes, and we end up back in an A chord. You can start out with a bar. If you're quick enough, you can already go for this fingering again. That's all that happens. Compared to what you just already had to learn, this is quite easy stuff. You land on the chord, in front of the beat, bass note, strum, double bass note, moving back to A major 9th, a strum in between, and back to the A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that is the pickup beat into the next section. The last 4 bars, starting on the F sharp minor chord. To the next part. That was the first section of the verse all the way through. Let me recap these 8 bars one more time. You'll see that the next 8 bars are going to be roughly the same thing. Maybe one more time with the magnet on the guitar, have a good look at what the strumming motion is doing. That strumming motion is always on 2 and 4. So it's always 1, 2, 3, 4, always in the same spot. So one time, the same section with the magnet on the guitar. Here we go. So that was the first part of the first verse. Now I'm going to play through the second part. You'll see that you basically know most of what needs to happen now. Into the D chord, straight into what I call the bridge. As you can see, you know most of the moving parts, just one extra variation in there. And in the beginning, we straight away used that variation with the B string first before moving into the C sharp minor chord. So, not to forget, the upbeat is 3 eighth notes long now. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, B string, and then into the C chord. Everything else is the same. Same thing as before. And now strum, and now you do land on that A chord with a bar because of the next section that comes up. So double stop in front of the beat. Bass note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Back into the F sharp minor chord. So because of that bar, you can now just pluck the second fret on the B string, then add the ring finger to the fourth fret on the high E string, fifth fret with the pinky, and then move back over into the same F sharp minor chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So strumming down on the G sharp, fourth fret on top, picking up on the fifth fret, and then moving back into the F sharp minor chord. Up until that point, exactly the same thing. Now we move back into the B dominant sus4 chord. We're going to change one thing. The ring finger is now not going to land on the D string, but it is going to land on the G string, fourth fret. And the pinky is going to stay on the fifth fret. It's not going to make that move down to the fourth fret. And that is what's going to happen here. It's quite quick, so the same thing on the F sharp minor chord. Strum down to the B chord with the different voicing now. Bass note on the A string, fourth fret on the G string, a strum down, and then straight away back to the fourth fret on the G string. 3, 4. That's how quick it should be. 3, 4. And then release the bar. Pluck the low E string together with the G string and B string, still holding this down with the pinky and the ring finger. Slide up 2 frets, and then add the index finger to the fourth fret on the high E string and strum down. Now, when I strum down, I briefly let go of the pressure on those 2 other strings to really make that melody note pop out. Repick and slide back down. And now as you slide down, you play an open A bass string to an open A bass string, another strum, and then we're moving down to the A chord. More on that in just a second. This is a tricky section. It's also a bar of 2 that comes in between here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it's just that section going up is a bar of 2. 1, 2, 1. And that last part should almost roll automatically out of the guitar. By now you should be used to that strumming motion. We're playing the exact same thing as in the intro. just with those strums in between there. So let me try and count along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Another strum, sorry, on 4. Then an open A string, and then we're going to move into an open D string, first chord of the next section of the bridge. So those 4 bars all the way through one more time. And into the D chord. As you can see, verse, the first section of the verse, the second section of the verse, there's not that much difference. And there won't be any more big or major differences in the rest of the song either. Just one big variation in the interlude, but that is all. You can play each and every verse now. So let me play this second section one more time with the magnet on the guitar, and then we're going to close this section of the tutorial down. Here we go. So that was the verse in full. You can now play the well-known intro as well as the verse. So I bet you're thirsty for more, but if you're watching on YouTube, then now is the time to switch over to my Patreon page or my website. I'll see you there.